Hey guys, Chris from the Ultimate Recycler. I'm back at the shop this evening. We've just closed up for the day. Christine's gone home as usual and I can be productive for a couple of hours. Not that I'm not productive when she's around, but it's the best time to video while there's no customers here. I can turn the radio off. Christine's not swearing at her sewing machine. So we're going to do another unboxing. I'm working my way through a bench here where I had a heap of boxes moved when I had to move from my shop next door. I don't know what's in them. There's 2 left. Let's have a look which one we should do. You guys can pick. Okay, so I've been gradually working away at this counter where a lot of boxes got stuck under there from next door. Because I know I've got storage rooms full and there's sheds full at home, but this is actually really useful and I'm getting myself organised again. If you look, I have tubs for old batteries and light globes, which as I unbox things, they go to the transfer station for recycling. There's tubs for mid-grade circuit boards and motherboards when I scrap out computers. And there's various tubs for different grades of scrap metal. So by having these tubs available and out of the road, it doesn't matter that customers can see them. In fact, if anything, it just reinforces to the locals that I do recycle as much as I can. But it's convenient here, it's out of the road, and as I'm sorting, I have tubs to put stuff in. So that's the focus for getting this area done first. So we have 2 boxes left that I don't know what are inside. We have that top trunk. It looks a nice early trunk covered in spider webs. Probably holds a whole host of treasures. It just looks like it's going to have good stuff in it. And the bottom one's a much more average but large galvanized iron lockable trunk that probably looks like it's going to have, I don't know, tent pegs or something boring in it. So which one will you pick? Yep, that's right, we're going, no, just tricking. Of course, everyone wants to look in this one. We'll do the other one next, but look, I don't know what's in either of them. So let's drag this one out and see what's inside it. It's quite an old trunk. I think it was, oh look, I've owned it longer than I can remember. It probably got shoved in a storage shed next door. I don't know if it's been repacked or it's got its original contents in it from when I bought it. I wasn't the one to lift it here. It doesn't look overly exciting actually. There's going to be some cords. It looks like a few more tools, a bit of shed stuff. Let's get out and go through it. We've got to do them all anyway. If nothing else, the trunk will wash up nicely. And yeah, I think you'll probably enjoy seeing me clean this trunk up and see what we can get for it as well. Let's move over to the bench. So it shouldn't be very heavy. And thanks to everyone that's been asking about how my shoulder's going. It's coming along pretty well. Yep, I think I can lift this. Okay, we've put the heavy paper down to protect Christine's bench and to protect my neck. We've got to do the right thing. Let's have a better rummage now that we can open it properly. It's got H. Harland as a name, so it's quite an early trunk. And if we look at the latches, they'll be nickel-plated brass. I would suggest probably 1930s maybe. Looks a little bit Art Deco. Yeah, handle's still intact. Bit of fabric coming off, but that case will actually clean up quite okay. Now let's have a better look at what's inside. We have, oh, it's very dirty, so it's not going to clean up that well inside. We have some cords, which is fine because we can scrap those. Oh, there are tools and things in amongst here. It's a bit of a mixed assortment here. There's a few old kitchen knives. Just random bolts. Yeah, look. It might not be much value in here, but we have to sort it all out and we may find something interesting. I'm surprised it wasn't packed more full than this, but then, you know, towards the end of the big move, things just got really just moved very quickly and there was lots of people helping, so I didn't have a chance to kind of look at a lot of stuff. Let's set the camera up and we'll go through it. We're going to get some scrap out of it as far as cords go anyway. So the challenge for this box might be, can we get enough value out of the box to beat the value of the box? Sometimes we have low value things to sort out, but the whole point of showing you how I sort them out is to show you what we do with junk as well. That's a very old knife. It's been sharpened poorly. It looks like it's been sharpened with an angle grinder, which is a bit of a shame. Some of these old knives are beautiful steel. The handle will clean up okay. I reckon that's worth a bit of a clean, but it's a shame it's got the grind marks on it. We'll probably see if we can find a brand on that one. This one is branded, and I think it's just a kitchen knife, but it will clean up okay to make a nice kitchen prop. So there's going to be some value there with a bit of clean with probably some steel wool. Now we'll get our cords out. Most of these are going to be straight out scrap metal. Well, that looks like an antenna cable, so that will be coax. It's all tangled together. I might just start cutting plugs because we're not going to use extension cords like this at all. They won't be safe. The old rubber insulation perishes. That one actually belongs to a soldering iron, which Craftsman, made in Australia. It's very rough. It'll have a copper tip. Soldering irons do use solid copper tips. Whilst it is rough, it's probably still usable. The cord has a bit of a melt in it, which is typical of soldering irons. Another one there. Another major melt there, almost through to the core wires. And the plug has been taped. So it's not very safe. I don't think it's worth trying to put another cord on it. At best, it's only going to be a $10 soldering iron in good condition. So I think we'll just scrap that. The cord's going to be worth nearly $1 anyway. It's quite a heavy cord. We'll probably get the copper tip out of it. So we'll just scrap that one. I'll put that aside for now. These cords do have the old rubber insulation. You can tell by the way they flex. And that's an old Bakelite socket that is damaged. So we'll just chop that straight off now. Let's clean up the wire as we go. And I'm more interested in the Bakelite plugs than the sockets. Where does this one go? Goodness. So there's a plug, but it's badly damaged. The Bakelite doesn't seem broken, but the pins are rather bent. We might see if we can save that one. I'll chop it off for now, and we'll put that in the checkout later pile. It'll be an Australian-made one. It does say Australia. I can't read a brand on it at the moment. It's possibly Ring Grip or HPM, but we might be able to straighten the pins. But people love the old Bakelite plugs as long as they're in good condition for when they're restoring vintage radios and all that sort of stuff. I like to put the original plugs on them. So we'll check that one out. And this one goes to what? Still goes in the box. It's just been cut off, so we'll chop the plug off here. And we're going to get a pretty good pile of insulated copper wire. Where's this one go? This one still goes into the box. And that's got a very old socket on it. So these were extension cords mostly. And that one, I'm not going to use the sockets. All right, there's some good heavy wire. We'll weigh this up at the end and see how much we get. Now this is a sort of plug, this is a Ring Grip or a HPM, but it's rather badly damaged, unfortunately. I do get $5 each for these Bakelite plugs, so they're worth saving. We'll chop that through here. And that was another soldering iron, but the plug was damaged, it had to come off anyway. I don't think that one's worth saving at all. We'll just get the copper out of it perhaps and chop the cord off. Alright, this is a coax cable. Okay, it's obviously an antenna cable of something. Now, sometimes they have a copper inner, sometimes it's actually wire and it's magnetic. So I don't usually worry about coax cable for that reason. If the scrapyards pull out a heap of wire out of your mid-grade wire bin, instead of giving you $3 something per kilo, they're likely to downgrade the whole lot because of the coax. So I don't muck around with that. And that's not good enough to be useful. So that is going straight in my bucket that I take to the local transfer station for e-waste. We'll also put this old broken soldering iron in as well. And I also put the old plugs and sockets in the same. So they do get recycled, but just not by me. Now, I know many of you take the brass pins off, and I've talked about that before. I don't worry about that, but by all means, if you want to do it, go for it. Okay, it looks like we've got just one more cord in here. And it's a long cord with a heavy plug that's obviously missing its inner plate, so that's going to be no good. Actually, no, that's no good. It's cracked. It's pretty heavy wire, and it's got this is like a kettle socket, an electric kettle, and it's actually porcelain. So I'm not going to scrap that one because I think someone might have a use for that. It's branded Federal. which I think is an Australian company. I know they made fuses. I reckon that is worth saving because it's porcelain, it's quality, it's not damaged. We might just chop the cord off the end here, and someone will possibly be really pleased to find that for reconditioning an old electric kettle. Some of the face jugs and the speckled electric kettle jugs are quite valuable, and if you want a nice old cord to go with them, well, that will be valuable. So more insulated wire for our copper wire pile. Right, that's all the cords. Let's get into some of the tools. We'll start at this end here. We have a jar full of nails. It's a Eater brand. Oh, it's got the original lid, so I think that would have been peanut butter. It needs a wash up. The tacks look quite okay. Actually, they're good. They're good. They're tacks rather than nails. Oh, they feel like they're aluminium. They're really light. That's unusual. Aluminium tacks. I've never seen aluminium tacks before. That's a little piece of aluminium too. Super light. They won't be magnetic. Let's check. Magnet test? Definitely not. So who has seen aluminium tacks before? I would have thought they'd be too soft. They might be good for upholstery jobs in very light timber, like a light pine, where they go in very easily. Yeah, I might. Here we go. I might keep them. They might be handy one day. But I think I'll wash the jar up. We'll get $5 for the Eater jar. Oops. Left one behind. Okay, now this one is a hammer, obviously, but it's not just a hammer. It's actually a part of something else, and I'm going to leave that for our next mystery object video. So don't guess now, but file that away in your memory because that will show up soon and you'll need to identify it. Okay, what have we got in here? This looks like a paint stirring stick. It's even branded Wattle, which is a paint brand here in Australia. I think they're just Australian. So no real value there. I sometimes do actually get a whole lot of old sticks and rulers and just put them in a box as paint stirrers, and sometimes I give them away. Better than throwing them in the bin. We have a tube socket here, or a box spanner. It's probably for a spark plug. Maybe it's a chainsaw one, but it doesn't have the screwdriver attachment. I normally just put those in a box and have like $5 for the lot. So that will go to a box. And likewise with files. This is a big half-round file. Very expensive to buy new, but by the time you get them in this condition, they're not really of a lot of value. It's a bit rusty and it feels well worn. It's branded, I can't quite read the brand. Oh, Wiltshire, I think. So it would have been an expensive file, but again, I often just box files up and say, you know, $5 a lot, and someone comes and grabs them. They are great steel. They're very hard steel, and sometimes people make other things out of them. What else have we got? That's actually a chainsaw file, so we'll put that with the other file. Oops. We have another knife here, which we will try and clean up as well. It's lost one of the rivets, but it'll be interesting to see what brand is on the blade. So we've got some knives to clean up. This looks like just a little awl, and that's AWL. And if you don't know what an awl is, it's just for putting holes through things. Probably just in the $1 box. Don't see much value there. We have a scraper here. Quite heavy, thick steel. Again, probably just in the $1 box. I don't worry about cleaning up things when they're pretty low value. Same with scrapers like this. It actually says made in England, but I don't worry about cleaning them up. They can all go in the $1 box, and some people get some good value out of that. Okay, this is I think it's what they call a gamble. It's actually a hanging hook for hanging like meat in abattoirs or something like that. And a lot of farmers used to use them when they killed their own stock at home on the farm. So that looks like it's probably even blacksmith made, that one. I think that will sell quite well. Okay, what else have we got in this box? We have another file with a wooden handle on it. That's okay, it'll give us some value for our box of files. Oh look, there's more files. Quite rusty. Now these could equally go in the scrap metal. This one particularly is quite rusty. You wouldn't ever use that, I wouldn't imagine. Although you may use the steel if you're making a little chisel or something, or a scraper. But they could equally go in the heavy melt steel as far as scrap metal goes, because they're nice and thick and they will go in with the normal steel. I'll just box them all together with the files here. What else we got? We have just a long threaded stud with a nut on one end, so probably just scrap metal for that one. A large coach bolt here. If I had a box of them, I'd sell them, but just one off, and the thread looks a bit damaged, so they can just go in the steel as well. This looks to be like a square shanked nail. Geez, it's well made. It's a big head on it. It's almost like a chisel. Maybe it's a larger nail for things like bridge timbers or something. Again, if I had a few of them, I think I'd sell them, but just a one-off, I don't think it's worth the effort. We'll just put that in with the heavy steel. This looks like, oh, I thought it was a file, but it's not. There's no serrations. Maybe it was a chisel, but I think that can just go with, again, with our heavy steel. This part looks brass. Certainly not magnetic. So, and look, we've got a file. Let's use a file and see. Here you go, seen that bright yellow? Yep, piece of brass. So that can go in our brass bin. We're going to get a bit of scrap metal here. A broken large hacksaw blade that someone may have used as a scraper. That can just go with a normal pressing steel, which I don't sell, but I will take to the transfer station. This looks like an old chisel handle, just split. That can go to my firewood pile. Another file. We have a shoe polish brush. Very, very grubby. They can probably just go to my firewood pile. It's not worth selling. It's basically just a block of wood with some hairs. It's probably natural hair, I'm not sure. Yeah, it might be horsehair. Not sure on that. It's quite an old one, but I don't think it's worth selling, and it's very dirty. Oh, here we have another brush. Well, used to be a brush, and it says brown nugget brush, just in case we didn't know. So yeah, firewood for that one. So a little adjustable wrench here. I've had these before, and I think the last one I showed you was a Footprint brand, and I think this one is as well. And a few of you mentioned that they are quite handy wrenches. As normal, someone's just put a screw through there. I know it's not original because that's a countersunk screw, and there's no reason to have a countersunk screw there. But that will clean up okay. We should be able to sell that one, especially if the brand cleans up well. Here we have a sanding disc to go in a drill. It looks quite modern, this one. The rubber feels okay. Yeah, that's flexible enough. I might take that one home. I reckon I've got a use for that. Normally I'd probably just put that in the $1 box, but we will take that one home. The classic old Stanley knife too here. They still sell quite well, but you know, I couldn't really be bothered cleaning it up and putting a new blade in it. I think we'll just put it straight in the $1 box and someone else will do that. They might even have more blades in it actually. I should check that because I'm running short on blades. They hide them inside the cavity. Where's the screwdriver? Oh, here's a screwdriver. In fact, that's a really nice old screwdriver in this set. So we'll clean that one up. I think that's at least a $10 screwdriver. A nice early one, and you get really good leverage on these. And they've got quite a good blade, although that one's a bit worn. Let's see if we can get into the Stanley knife. There we go. So if you've never had a Stanley knife, because all these days they just have the plastic ones with the ratchet blade. There we go. That blade's pretty well had it. So we can throw that one into the scrap steel. And wrapped up in here, we have some new blades, although they're a bit rusty. Oh, there's about 5 of them. Even though they're a bit rusty, a bit surface rusty, the edges, oh, that's a hooked one. And look at that. They're going to be pretty good. So actually the blades aren't really rusty, it's just the paper. So I might take this one home, as it is a good quality Stanley knife with new blades. But that's where they normally stash them inside. So we'll put that back together for now, and I'll clean that up at home. Okay, not much left in the trunk here. This one is a wire crimper and stripper. It's quite modern. There's no brand on it. It's probably only a cheapie. I think we'll just put that in the $1 box. Oh, we might get 5 for that. I'll give it a bit of a clean up. I think we'll get 5. It's got good grippy handles on it. Okay, just the tag from a paintbrush. They can go in the recycle. An old pencil. Another knife. Greg Steel, Australia. Worth cleaning up. Another knife. Oh, this one looks interesting. It's quite an old one. It's lost the rivet again. But I think we'll give these a buff up on the wire wheel at home and see how good they come up. And another knife. This is like a boning knife. It's a shame someone's hit it with a grinder. But we'll give it a buff up at home and see how it cleans up. This looks like the handle of a small hammer that's been used as a paint stirring stick. Just a bit of timber for the fire. We have some old woodwork drills out of a brace. These are the bit from a brace and bit. And there's another one here as well. I usually have a box lot of these and I just put like $10 a box lot. Depends how many are in it. They're pretty rusty, but they'd still work okay. A classic looking magnet. It's probably out of a child's toy set or some sort of kid's set. It's not magnetic at all, so I think that can just go in our steel pile. Another old blade that's been sharpened down to a chisel or a scraper. That you often find these. The blades were nice high carbon steel and they're very hard. They make excellent scrapers, but they can just go to our shred pile. The roofing nail. What do we got here? That's just a packet off something, so they can go to recycling. It's just cardboard. A little bent piece of steel is greater, or it's about 1/4 inch. They can go with a heavy steel. Another small drill bit, so we've got 3 of those. A little triangular file adds to our file pile. And this looks like it was a large souvenir pencil, Magnetic Island, Queensland, but very rough, very dirty. All the paint's starting to come off it. Probably 1970s, one of those souvenir things you'd buy from when you're on a holiday. Not good enough to sell, but if they're in good nick, they do sell. They just can go to them a firewood pile. And that's it, our box is pretty much empty. Okay, that stuff was really low value, and I can imagine most people, if they found a box like this, they'd probably just tip the whole lot in a skip bin. So I am going to sort it out. I'm going to clean up those knives and things. I've got some steel, which I'll weigh up just for interest's sake. It's only going to be a matter of cents, but we'll weigh it up. Piece of brass, some drill bits, the files. That one box spanner can go with the $1 stuff. That's all our $1. Well, that's our $1 stuff. That's just a bit of wood that can go in my firewood box at home. The screwdriver is a nice one that'll clean up well. A few pieces to take home, some bits for the shred. They're my side cutters. We have some wire to weigh up, and we have a very, very dirty box just with I'll run the magnet over it and pick up any little bits of hardware. And it looks like it's had paint spilt in that end. Yeah, that's a shame. I think I'll take it home. Oh, it's actually, the paint is spilt and it's glued nails and screws and everything into the corner. I think I'll take the box home and give it a wash up on the lawn once I get these little sundries out of here. And we'll just see how well it cleans up. I'm not going to go to too much trouble, but it is a nice old trunk. It's obviously got some history, and I think we'll still get some money for that, so it's worth washing up. Anyway, I'll clear off the low value stuff here, and I'll package up these things to take home and clean up. We'll finish the video off at home. So I'm at home now and I've been cleaning up this stuff, and the box itself, the trunk or the old case, is cleaned up pretty well. I just washed it out with the hose. It's badly stained inside. It's actually a timber box covered in cloth. You can see the area through there. So it's like a, I don't know if it's a ply. I suggested it was probably 1930s, and I did find a patent date on the lock. I think it says British made that end, and there was a patent date ending in 34. So that's usually a pretty good guide. It would probably be then mid to late 30s, which fits with my guess. But the rest of the case cleaned up pretty well. I've just been wiping it over with an Armor All, which is a vinyl, rubber and plastic treatment. And after I've washed it, I haven't done this end. I've washed all of the sort of the dirt and the grease off it. It was actually a bit greasy. And the Armor All just brings out the colour and gives it just a little bit of gloss, and it makes it much cleaner to touch. So it's come up pretty good. Let me show you these latches for those of you that are too young to know what these old suitcase latches or how they work. I often get people in my shop buying vintage suitcases, and a lot of them don't actually understand how these work. So when they're in good condition, you can actually push that down and they lock. But there you go, that one actually does. But it's much easier if you use one hand to hold that latch across. And while you're holding it across, I'll see if I can do it one hand, you push that down and then you release the other one. And it's much easier to lock them. And these things, if you turn them, it now can't open. So it's essentially locked, and you can lock it with a key as well. So that's how those latches work. Very common on suitcases right through into the 70s. But the people today, I think, just use zip-up bags with separate little locks on them. Okay, so it's a nice little case. It's got a timber bottom. I did tear the fabric off the bottom that was all tattered. So it's quite a presentable case now. I'll get out my notepad shortly and write down some prices, but I'll finish cleaning up the top of this. I would think I'll probably put about $30 on it. And if your name happens to finish in Harland, it might be $40. And if your first name's Harry, I reckon I could get $50 for it. So no, we'll go 30. I think 30 is a reasonable price. It's a great prop. It'll look nice in the shop. And these things are quite popular at the moment. Okay, let's finish off this little unboxing, and you may be surprised at how much value we got out of a total box of what looked like junk. We have the notepad there. We'll zoom in a minute. Let's just scan around. The jar cleaned up very nicely. Pretty easy to wash up. The lid's in great nick. I think I'll get 10 for that. I found one of these actually on eBay, and they were asking $20 or $25. I reckon I'll get 10 for it. It's in good condition. And for anyone that wants to rewire an old cord to suit an electric jug, I think they'll jump at that. So $10 there. The file was cleaned up pretty well. This, I did check the name. I was mispronouncing it. It's actually a gambrel with an R. So Gambrel, and it's for hanging up a carcass by the hocks, or I think the gambrel is part of the anatomy of an animal, and that's what they use. I think this one's blacksmith's made. I reckon we'll get $10 for that. Quite a nice piece. The strippers and clippers cleaned up well, 5. The Stanley knife cleaned up really well. I think I just valued it at 5, but I did actually see some on eBay sell for 20. It's got a nice new blade on it. Even the blades are branded Stanley. Nice and sharp, and I just gave it a bit of a lube inside. It works well. I'm going to keep that one, but I valued it at 5. I'm keeping both of those, but I just put them in the $1 lots. There's our wire and our other scrap. We'll get to that shortly. The knives all cleaned up okay, but it's such a shame they've been ground, or, grinded. What's the term? Ground, I guess. But an angle grinder has been used, and it's really damaged the blade, and it's left fairly decent grooves in it. I cleaned them up on my wire wheel. That one and that one are both branded Greg Steel Australia. They're good quality steel. Someone might restore them, but even they cleaned up quite nicely, and I'm just going to put them in the shop at $5 each. So, if they were in better condition, I'd get a lot more for them, I think. But I've allowed $30 value for those 6 knives. The drill bits actually cleaned up really well on the wire wheel, and I'm going to ask $10 for the 3 of those. The screwdriver cleaned up great as well, and I think I wrote down 10 for that. There wasn't a brand on it, unfortunately, but it's a nice example of an early screwdriver. But what the screwdriver was lacking in brands, the footprint wrench made up for it. There is actually, let's get a focus there. There's actually 3 footprints on that. What a beautiful little piece, and cleaned up great. It works nicely, and I'm going to ask 15 for that. Shouldn't have any troubles getting that. I rescued this Bakelite plug. Earlier in the video, you might have seen me throw it in with the e-waste. I'd forgotten about it, but I've straightened the pins, and the Bakelite's in good condition. It is an Australian-made one, and I don't think I'll have any troubles getting $5 for that. And I've written down, I think, $10 for our mystery hammer, which we'll get to in a future video. So the total, $167. Not bad for a pile of junk, hey? You can see the scrap prices there. $5.50 for the mid-grade wire, 35 cents. There's 1 kilo of heavy melt steel, and hardly any brass, but the brass prices are going up again at the moment, which is good, so just 40 cents there. So, and all the other prices, I think, just as I mentioned. So $167. The trunk, we said 30, so we had about $130 worth of stuff inside that trunk, and it only looked, well, it was less than half full, and it looked like rubbish. So pretty cool. And another box unboxed, more space for me to get organized. Thanks for watching again, guys. Another unboxing. There's going to be lots of them. Now, as I'm just recording this, it's New Year's Eve, or it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I'll try and edit this and get it up tonight, so a lot of you guys won't see it until next year. Haha, that old pun. But I'd like to wish everyone a fantastic New Year's. I hope 2023 is just awesome for all of you. I know a few of you, especially some of my regular viewers, have had a pretty tough last year with various things going on. Of course, we've all had a tough few years with COVID, so let's all have a fantastic next year. Keep a positive attitude. I hope it'll be great for you all. I thank you all for your support, and we'll catch you real soon. Bye for now.